In World War II, air power became predominant. Important as the big gun and the torpedo were, aircraft from carriers and airfields became war-winning weapons. SAS-2 simulates the complexity of air power, yet in a very playable way. By default, your 2IC handles all airstrikes. Why? Because even in a moderately sized campaign, you will have hundreds, perhaps thousands of aircraft at a dozen or more airfields, and probably carriers as well. All of them on any daylight hour could have targets of opportunity at sea and on land. This makes for hundreds of decisions in a typical tactical turn and would be overwhelming to handle unassisted. And so by default, your 2IC selects all targets, chooses the strike composition, and then messages you when launching each strike. We will see an example of this very soon. But before doing that, you may ask what you as the player can do to control things. The answer is everything. You can change the airstrike policies he follows. You can control any or all of your airfields and carriers, and then directly nominate their land and sea targets and the composition of each strike. So you have a command choice. How much to leave it to your 2IC and how much to intervene yourself. SAS-2 gives you this choice in the tactical turn, just as it does for fleet operations more generally. Experienced players will want to exercise command selectively, controlling just a few key bases and carriers, leaving the rest to the 2IC to manage. This is because, as you will soon see, the 2IC is extremely capable, yet most players will want to be hands-on when crucial tactical situations develop. Okay, enough preamble. Let's first see what air power looks like in a moderately sized campaign. Here we are in the Mediterranean. It is July 1940, and the air and naval forces are historically based. Starting with the Italians, they have around 1,500 frontline aircraft, including several hundred of their very capable SM-79 torpedo bombers. Click on the map to see it enlarged. Their air power is shown graphically in terms of reach and concentration. Mousing over each base shows the details. The radius of bombers at medium load is shown. The range is greater at light load, but medium and heavy loads are more effective. The numbers in each hex represent the total weight of bombs that could be dropped there by all bombers from the highlighted base carrying the largest load that they could at that range. The figures are in units of 100 kilograms. The color of the hex also indicates bomb weights. Deep red means very heavy concentrations. Let's quickly cycle through the Italian bases. You see they can reach into most of the Mediterranean. Mousing over the map, the red lines show the interlocking coverage from all nearby bases. The British, on the other hand, have only around 200 aircraft deployed at this time, and many are obsolescent designs like the Blenheim fighter bomber and the old Gloucester Gladiator biplane fighter. They were deployed mostly in the eastern Mediterranean, around Alexandria and Sidi Barrani, with a small force at Malta and Gibraltar. The one advantage the British had apart from early radar was that the fleet at Alexandria and at Gibraltar each had an aircraft carrier. The aircraft were obsolescent, yet surprisingly effective, being under the direct command of the fleet admiral. Italy, on the other hand, never managed proper coordination between Navy and Air Force. Okay, before running the turn, let's review the planned fleet operations. The British have an immediate imperative, namely the resupply of Malta, with desperately needed food and war material. So a convoy is formed. The main threat is expected to be by enemy aircraft, so to support the operation, they put their only carrier at Alexandria directly with the convoy, hoping to use its small complement of Sea Gladiator fighters to fight off enemy bombers. The old slow battleship HMS Royal Sovereign, 2 light cruisers and 5 escort destroyers join in to provide anti-ship and anti-aircraft defenses. The convoy here is not historical, but it is nevertheless representative of British operational planning at this time. For this video, we are interested purely in the use of air power against ships at sea, so we will keep things simple. The British will have just this one fleet at sea. As for the Italians, they will keep all their ships in port and rely only on their air force to stop the convoy. Can they do so? Here we will do several test runs as the Italian player, each time experimenting with different air power settings. By the end of the video, you should be clearer as to how you can dramatically affect results. Playtesting will show that the Italians have a large number of ways to achieve their objective. But first we will run the turn with the default settings to see what happens. Click Go to enter the tactical map. Now enlarge and drag the map to focus on the area between Alexandria and Malta. As the convoy makes its way, it passes closest to aircraft around Tobruk. But long-range attacks are possible from Rhodos and Leros, then Benghazi, and lastly from aircraft in Sicily. Okay, for this first run we'll let your 2IC handle things. He has to follow some general policies. Let's quickly see them. Click the Options button and then the Airstrike Policies button. You can do this any time during the tactical turn to view and perhaps change the policies. They are conservative, aiming to minimize aircraft losses in at least 3 ways. First, enemy fleets with carriers are to be attacked only if at least half the estimated enemy fighter numbers can be matched by escorting fighters in the strike. And even if the escort fighters are available, their range is much less than the bombers, so strike ranges are greatly reduced. Second, all level bombers, that is, all bombers other than torpedo and dive bombers, are to drop their bombs from an extreme height. Though this greatly reduces aircraft losses from anti-aircraft fire and enemy fighters, so too the chance of scoring hits is much reduced. Thirdly, strikes are to launch only within their preferred radius of medium and heavy bomb loads. This rules out the longest ranged attacks at light bomb loads. Okay, close out of the policies dialog and then run the turn. The Italians sight the convoy early on, track it, and at first opportunity, dawn the next morning, launch a strike from Tobruk. Clicking on the message brings up the results from the strike. 24 SM-79 torpedo bombers, accompanied by 12 CR-42 Falco biplane fighters, attacked the convoy. HMS Eagle has 4 Sea Gladiators on combat air patrol and scrambles the remainder. The Italians concentrate on the Eagle and score a torpedo hit. The opposing biplane fighters are an even match and suffer small losses. Anti-aircraft fire from the convoy is more effective, especially against the low-flying torpedo bombers. The result is disappointing. HMS Eagle is damaged but soldiers on, continuing to provide air cover over the convoy, and no merchant ships are damaged. Close the damage results window to continue. At 7 a.m. the next day, the convoy is sighted again, and another strike from Tobruk is formed. The planes arrive over the convoy 2 hours later. Again, click the message to see the strike results. This strike is even less successful. No torpedo hits are scored, and as only 7 Falcos were available as escorts for the strike, the defending Sea Gladiators are more effective. 10 bombers and 3 of the Falcos are lost to 2 of the Sea Gladiators. Anti-aircraft fire from the convoy destroys another 4 Italian planes. The convoy slowly passes out of range of Tobruk. It is spotted several more times, but only 2 days later comes into range of aircraft at Messina. A strike is launched. 24 torpedo bombers escorted by 8 Machi fighter bombers attack the convoy. Again, the defending Sea Gladiators effectively break up the strike, losing one of their own, before a small merchant ship is torpedoed. The Italians again lose a number of bombers and fighters to the defending fighters and to anti-aircraft fire. This is the last airstrike to hit the convoy before it reaches Malta, very largely unscathed. The result? An almost complete British victory. Let's look at why this has been so, and at how fortunes can be improved. If we stop and restart the calculation, we can review what has happened. Here we are at the start, with hexes turned on to help gauge distances. The route of the convoy is overlaid here. The Italians do not know the exact route, but if they did, they could see in advance which airbases would be in range as the convoy sails. Mousing along the route reveals them. The red lines run from the airbases where bombers with at least a medium load are in potential range. The actual range can be shorter, for when a strike forms, it flies at the speed of the slowest aircraft, which can reduce the actual endurance of aircraft that are faster. The first thing to note is that the convoy passes too far south of Leros and Rhodos. The 4 dozen bombers stationed there could reach the convoy only at light load, so the policy would have to change to allow extended strikes at light load. Furthermore, the requirement for fighter escorts would also have to be waived, because the old CR-32 biplane fighters there have limited endurance and could not escort strikes that far. Secondly, the 4 dozen bombers at Benghazi are also out of the fight because there are no escort fighters there currently. They were earlier moved east to Tobruk to bolster frontier defenses, so again, the requirement for fighter escorts against fleets with carriers would need to be waived. The simplest and quickest solution, therefore, is to change the policies. If we call up the policies window, they can be changed with 2 clicks, here and here. Now we are ready for test number 2. Close the policies window. Let's zoom in. Then run the turn. You see many more strikes being launched. They are shown on the map in yellow, streaking to the target from all bases in extended range. We won't stop to see the individual strike results, but by the time the convoy is past Crete, you can see it has only 6 merchant ships left out of the original 10. Continuing on, the heavy toll of numerous airstrikes continues. By the time the convoy is near Malta, all merchant ships have been sunk, and you see that the Eagle is no longer with the convoy. Mousing over the enemy fleet to the east, you see it is the Eagle with 2 escorts. It left the convoy sometime earlier when 2 damaged, and is now returning to Alexandria for repairs. So what is the result this time? It is a crushing Italian victory. All the British merchant ships were sunk before they reached Malta, and though the details are not shown here for reasons of brevity, all their escorting naval ships were badly damaged and will require costly and time-consuming repairs. But the victory was costly for the Italians too. Again, the strike results are not shown here for reasons of brevity, but together they tell quite a story. In the 5-day period between sighting the convoy and it nearing Malta, the Italians sent against it no less than 29 separate airstrikes from 11 different airfields. A further 3 airstrikes were sent against the retreating HMS Eagle. In total, 556 individual aircraft sorties were made. The most important statistic, though, is that 95 aircraft were lost. Over 80% of these losses were from the Sea Gladiator fighters on HMS Eagle. The policy decision to launch strikes without needing escort fighters cost the Italians dearly. Only 2 of the strikes had accompanying fighters. These losses would be unsustainable in the long run, being over 6 times higher than the historical loss rate of Italian aircraft. A better way of stopping the convoy must be found. Policy changes are quick and easy to do, but affect all your airstrikes everywhere and can be a blunt instrument. Let's stop the calculation and return it to the beginning. Now we will explore a much more targeted approach. First, we will return the policy settings to their original state. Open the Strike Policies window, then re-tick the 2 tick boxes we previously cleared. Strikes against carriers again require fighter escort, and extended strike ranges are no longer authorized. Your 2IC must again follow these restrictions. Close the Policies window. The new plan is to inflict maximum damage on the convoy as early as possible, hoping to force the Eagle out of the fight. Once this is done, it should be game over for the British. The plan is to attack in 3 phases. First, extended range attacks from Rhodos and Leros will soften up the convoy. Bombing from a very high level, the aircraft losses should be minimal even without escorting fighter support. Secondly, strikes from Tobruk with fighter cover will hit the convoy with everything they have. No bombers will be held back. The odds are that this will sink or damage the Eagle enough to put it out of action. Then it will be time to mop up. For the remainder of its journey, the convoy will be at the mercy of airstrikes that will not need to find fighter escort support. That will be easy to arrange, and aircraft losses should be minimal. Okay, let's start. Run the turn slowly and stop when the convoy is sighted just out of Alexandria. Here it is at 9 a.m. the next day. Now we will see a new technique. We can put any airfield or carrier under direct player control. Here we will do this for Rhodos and Leros. Simply mouse over each base and press the W key each time. The bases are now on player watch. Any base on player watch is highlighted with a green circle. Now activate the watch by ticking the Control Strikes tick box or simply pressing the C hotkey. Now when we continue running the turn, the calculation will stop whenever Rhodos or Leros have potential targets to report. Let's do this now. Immediately, information pops up from Rhodos and Leros. Click on the bottom bar to enlarge the window to show all targets without having to scroll. If the window obscures important information in the underlying map, just click on the title bar and drag it around. The targets are all listed in an amber tab labeled Promotable. A promotable strike is one that has one or more policy reasons against launching. We already know that there are 2 reasons against a convoy strike. It is out of preferred range and no fighter escort can be provided. Clicking on the left chevron in the CF1 target line for both Rhodos and Leros shows the reasons again. You can see that both bases have other potential targets, being all British ports in range, but CF1 is the first potential target for both because it has the highest target value, or TV. The window gives lots of other information, but the main value of the window is to give you not information, but control. Here we will use it to force Rhodos and Leros to launch strikes against CF1. To do this, simply click on the CF1 target line to the right of the chevrons for both Rhodos and Leros. CF1 is now a player-selected target for both bases, and this is indicated by a distinguishing asterisk. This means that all policy restraints are to be ignored for this target from these bases. Now refresh the window by hitting the N hotkey. Rhodos and Leros will now launch extended-range airstrikes against CF1 whenever they can, so long as the convoy remains a player-selected target and these bases remain on player watch. You have overridden your 2IC, but only for these bases and against this target. He will follow the standard policies against all other targets and for all other bases. Notice that the 2 strikes against the convoy are listed in a green tab labeled Pending. They have been promoted out of the amber Promotable tab, which you can still see behind. The green color is like the traffic light. The strikes are ready to go. Though you have chosen the target, your 2IC has chosen the strike profile. The numbers of fighters and bombers in each strike and the number remaining behind are summarized. F means fighters in the strike, B means bombers. RF and RB are the numbers remaining behind. EF means the estimated number of enemy fighters defending the target. This number includes estimates of enemy fighters able to provide combat air patrol from nearby bases. AP means attack points. This represents the total weight of the bombs carried by each strike. They are in units of 100 kilograms. Here, you'll see that each strike is carrying 120 units, i.e. 12 tons of bombs in 24 aircraft. We could leave this unchanged, or we could now go further and edit each strike profile. There is one change we want to make, so to do this, click on each target line to the right of the chevrons. You see scissors icons appear, along with an Edit Strike Composition button. Click the Edit Strike Composition button. First, you see details for the strike from Leros, its cruising speed, the bombers in the strike, and the unassigned aircraft. You see that there are RO-44 seaplanes and CR-32 fighters, but the XXX marker for each means they are ineligible. Clicking on each gives the reason. Both have insufficient endurance, even at light load. The change we want to make is for the SM-81 bombers. Click on them to get the details. Clicking on the bomb load selector shows that only the current light load is possible. This is because the strike is at extended range. But we can change the bombing height. We want to reduce the height one step, from extremely high to very high. This will improve bombing accuracy without endangering our aircraft too much. Okay, we have no more changes to make, so click Launch to launch the strike. You now see the strike details for Rhodos. The bombing height change has carried through, so simply click to launch it too. Okay, time to continue running the turn. Click to restart it. You see the strikes moving to attack the convoy. Mouse over the message to see the results. The Leros strike scores a bomb hit and 2 near misses, including 1 on the Eagle. The Rhodos strike obtains another hit and near miss. In total, 3 merchant ships are damaged, as is HMS Eagle. 11 aircraft are lost in total, but the softening up of the convoy has begun. Continuing the calculation, we get a message at dawn the next day. Leros and Rhodos are ready to launch against the convoy again. Mousing over the convoy, you see the latest intel is 12 hours old. This is too old according to your general policies. But remember, Leros and Rhodos are ignoring policy restraints, being now under player control. You could now abort the strikes, but we will let things run instead. Before doing so, it is time to take control of Tobruk. The convoy is coming into preferred range, and we want to have control over the composition of strikes from the base to ensure a maximum effort. So mouse over the base and press the W hotkey to add it to the watch list. Now continue running the turn. A message from Tobruk appears on the next hour. A strike is pending against the convoy. Let's edit the strike to make a maximum effort. Click on the target line once to make it player selected, and then once more to allow for editing. You see the scissors icon and the Edit Strike Composition button. Now click that button. You can now edit the strike. You see the strike being prepared. There are 12 Falco fighters as escort to 24 SM-79 bombers. In the unassigned list, you can see that another 24 SM-79s are available, as are 12 CA-310 bombers. As you've seen before, the other aircraft with XXX markers are ineligible due to range or cruising speed. So your 2IC has selected less than half the available bombers. Why? Because a general policy for optimum bomb weights is restricting him. We could have changed this policy, which would have affected all strikes everywhere. But instead, we will simply select all bombers for this particular strike to see how things go. Let's do this now. Now the strike has 48 SM-79 torpedo bombers and 12 CA-310 level bombers. Click to launch the strike. You see a message confirming this. But in the meantime, the two strikes from Leros and Rhodos are also in the air, and the first has struck home. Mousing over the strike message shows the results. A bomb hit on the Eagle, and another and a near miss on two merchant ships. Close the results window and continue the calculation. On the next hour, the strike from Rhodos arrives. Mousing over the strike message shows a near miss on the old battleship Royal Sovereign. Closing the results and continuing, we see in the next hour the massed strike from Tobruk hitting the convoy. The strike does severe damage. The level bombers score a bomb hit, but it is the torpedo bombers that do the critical damage, with no less than 7 torpedoes finding their mark. Reports are that 3 merchant ships are sinking, 2 more are sunk, and the Eagle is largely wrecked. Close the window and continue the calculation for a few hours. You see updated sightings of the convoy and of a fleet called EF2. EF means Emergency Fleet. Mousing over EF2, a carrier is reported, probably the Eagle, but reports can be imprecise. The report on the convoy still says a carrier is there too, along with 5 merchant ships still. More strikes are needed, it seems. Let's continue the calculation. At dawn the next day, Leros and Tobruk are ready to launch again. That's what we want. Click to continue. At 8 a.m. the strikes arrive over the target. Click on the message to see the results. The Tobruk strike scores 3 more torpedo hits, and only 2 aircraft are lost, all from anti-aircraft fire. Most importantly, the strike confirms that HMS Eagle is no longer with the convoy. As suspected, it must have departed earlier due to damage. 2 merchant ships are torpedoed. The Leros strike delivers the coup de grace, with a bomb hit on the remaining merchant ship. All 3 are now sinking, and the Royal Sovereign cops more damage. Close the results window. Now mousing over CF1 shows the report confirming the absence of the Eagle and the remaining presence of only 1 merchant ship. And so at hour 81, just 3 days after the convoy sailed, it is almost completely destroyed, and aircraft losses have been manageable. The Italian job is done. That brings this video to an end. It has overviewed the essentials of how airstrikes can be controlled during the tactical turn. Further videos will explore airstrike control in more detail. Thanks for watching.